Yeah, I wish we were here.
Live from the Crane Room Bar and Grill, it's 3SN Live. Let your voices be heard. Tweet us at 3S Network, like us on Facebook, or comment at 360sportsnetwork.com. And now, here's the hosts of the show, Dotson in the Lab, on 3SN Live.
Welcome to 360 Sports Network, everybody. I am Alex DeLaverson, and with me is James. I am the real Dotson. And returning is Greg, the mad scientist, Bashero. We are back in action after a 1-month hiatus. Today we're going to be covering fantasy football quarterback rankings. Gentlemen, how goes it?
Absolutely awesome. If that was any better, there'd be three of me.
Right.
Well, there's three of us, so that's going to have to count.
Just me and the mad scientist here, so.
Well, we got the mad scientist, and fantasy football is his thing. And so we're going to start off right with you. Greg, tell us who the top quarterback is in this year for this year's NFL League.
The top quarterback. Now, that's a loaded question. Actually, I mean, you can make arguments for Aaron Rodgers, you can make arguments for Drew Brees, so it's like 1-1A. I'll go out and say Aaron Rodgers, only because he's pretty much an automatic type of guy. He's got a great team, and nothing much has really changed up there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an obvious thing. I think he's, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the league. And now he has a running game with Eddie Lacy coming in, Jonathan Franklin. So there's no reason, in my opinion, why he would not be number one. And I agree with you there, too, of having Drew Brees in number two. He's been passing for 5,000 yards here and there. So, I mean, another obvious thing I feel like we don't have to go deep into. I mean, the Saints offense is predicted to be like 2007 New England form by some magazines. So, again, don't think too much about it. Dawson, you in agreement?
For the most part, yes. I like Aaron Rodgers a lot. I like Drew Brees a lot. I think if you get either one of those as your top two quarterbacks, that would be awesome. Here's the thing, though. Like we say all the time, it was one of our commandments, you got to know what your league is. You got to know what the format is. And just looking at the customizable cheat sheets that we have on our website, if you plug in stats that we have in a generic scoring system, based on the stats we have for this scoring system that we use for the 3SN League, you actually see Drew Brees as the number one quarterback, Aaron Rodgers as the number 5 quarterback.
Right, and that's based upon our league.
That's based on the way our league is set up, which is a little bit different. So that's why you need to know your league and you need to look at everything as a whole.
Our league is 6 points, any touchdown, compared to a typical 4-point passing touchdown.
I think we can probably make a pretty safe argument that if you got one or the other in any league, any type of format, you're not going to do too shabby.
Yeah, you should be in fine shape if you have, as far as the quarterback position is concerned.
Exactly.
Now, the question after those top two, though, is where would you go after that? I mean, I think that there's a lot of, pretty much the next 5 or 6, I think, are very even, that you can go many different routes, and it shouldn't be too big of an issue. The question is, which one would you go with next at that point?
Go ahead, Greg.
Well, I would probably go in number 3 position, probably go with Tom Brady. And number 4 would be Peyton Manning. And then rounding out the top 5, I'd have to go with Matty Ice. Matt Ryan down there at Atlanta.
I have a number 3, Peyton Manning. I know some are worried about him. He's going to be 37. But look, the addition of Wes Welker is not going to hurt. And I know I don't expect Wes to produce the same type of numbers he did in New England, but he goes from Tom Brady to Peyton Manning. And Wes Welker will be the number 3 wide receiver on that team. And if Wes Welker is your number 3 wide receiver on your team, you got a pretty good offense. So to me, I have Peyton Manning at number 3. I'm not that worried about him being old. At number 4, I actually have Tom Brady. Some people have been really writing off Tom Brady this year because of the loss of Aaron Hernandez and Wes Welker and Brandon Lloyd and all the turmoil going down in New England. This has really been a very devastating offseason for New England, just perception-wise and everything. What happened the last time New England had a very bad offseason, a very certain stigma floating around him? Spygate. The Patriots came out and was dominating the competition. I'm not saying that's going to happen this year, but you can never write off Belichick and Brady. Ever.
Yeah, you're 100% correct on that. And once again, Tom Brady is the ultimate quintessential competitor. Tom Brady made Aaron Hernandez. Tom Brady made his receivers. He made Wes Welker.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's a system. And I don't care if you put somebody from the Little Sisters of the Poor in there. Tom Brady's going to make them a decent receiver.
Oh, absolutely. And the addition of Danny Amendola is a very solid addition. Again, I don't think it'll be Wes Welker caliber, but he's basically a younger version of Welker for the most part, and I don't expect him to miss a beat.
No, I think Danny Amendola is, a little bit more versatile receiver than Wes Welker was. He can do a lot more.
Well, and what's really interesting with the New England situation right now is with the obvious issues with Aaron Hernandez, Robert Gronkowski, we don't know how healthy he's going to be. So it sounds like Jake Ballard's going to come right in and be number one. Not so fast, my friends. He might not even make the team. So at that point, who gets the tight end reps? Is it going to be Michael Wanui? It's something to keep an eye on for some of your later guys. Hey, he's a tight end from Illinois, and it's fun to say his name, Huma Wanui.
Oh my gosh.
I will bring up Huma Wanui every single podcast. Because I'll tell you what.
Did you practice saying his name? How did you got that down perfectly?
Michael Wanui?
Oh my lord. What's worse, that or Matumala?
Chris Matumala? He is one bad Ma'afala.
I'd hate to be the announcer for the University of Hawaii football. But anyway, don't overthink Tom Brady. He'll get 3,700 passing yards, 38 TDs. It's just what he does. After him, this is kind of my, I don't say upset pick, but I am reaching here. And it's because I feel like every year you kind of have to have a reach. And I have Cam Newton at number 5. Cam Newton, his first year, was a fantasy machine. It was phenomenal what he did. Last year, he was 16th overall in quarterback ranking, but yet he was still in the top 5 in points, and that was during his sophomore slump. I love the new coach going in there. Third year should be more settled. To me, the fact that the Panthers are probably going to be down 20 points every game means they're going to have to truck the ball anyway. So, I think Cam Newton, if he was in the top 5 last year, to me, there's no reason why he wouldn't be at least as good as last year, especially going into his third year now. So to me, that's my, I guess you want to say, sleeper pick.
Well, that's such a deep sleeper. I think it's in a coma, to be honest with you. But the thing that concerns me about Cam Newton is primarily his maturity issues. Cam Newton had a very, very tough year last year. He was truculent. He tried to put the team on his back. He tried to do too many things. He tried to work outside the system. Granted, he had some decent numbers, and he made things work out somewhat. But I think part of Carolina's problem was Cam Newton himself. We'll see what the new coach does, but I think it's just too soon to put him at a top 5 position.
Well, here's the thing. Why him over RG3, Kaepernick, or Wilson? Unlike RG3, he's going to be alive. Unlike Kaepernick, he's played a lot. And unlike Wilson, like I said earlier, they're going to be behind and have to throw.
RG3's dead?
Well, he's
well, we don't know if he's alive. We haven't seen him on the field yet. He claims he'll be back week 1, but Shanahan is doing everything to make sure it's in his control.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, you have him over Matty Ice. I mean, come on.
It's a risk thing. I mean, look, he finished fourth in all. He finished 4th in all fantasy points last year, and number 16 in QB rating. That has to take some skill to do.
You take your risk. I'll take the ice roll.
You take the ice roll.
Amen.
But I mean, here's the thing, though. You look at all that, there is a lot of parity. Who would you take between a Cam Newton, a Matt Stafford, even a Tony Romo in there, who obviously we know his things as a quarterback, but he's a great fantasy quarterback. Then you got all the second-year guys, the Lucks, the Kaepernicks, the Robert Griffins. We haven't even gotten the Eli Mannings or Josh Freeman, even Matt Schaub and Roethlisberger. I mean, they're down out of the starting range. They're like 13 through 16 in all of our projections.
There are a lot of excellent top-tier number 2 quarterbacks. I mean, and you just hit the nail right on the head. I mean, I actually would have Matt Stafford at the number 5 position. or Matty Ice at a number 5 position. But if you're going 6 on down, obviously we're taking ourselves out of that top tier, going to the second tier. You can actually win a league with an excellent second tier quarterback, provided that you obviously know the rules of your league and draft accordingly.
Well, and also about Stafford too. People don't know this, but Calvin Johnson was tackled on an opponent's 1-yard line 6 times last year.
That's huge.
That is huge in terms of points.
I know, I had him.
Yeah. Too bad for you. I mean, hopefully something like that doesn't happen this
But
year.
I also won the league.
Yeah.
So it didn't hurt you too badly.
No.
Here's something else. Again, we're going to say this a million times throughout this podcast and future podcasts. You got to know your league. If you get a lot more for rushing touchdowns, then someone like Kaepernick, Cam Newton is going to be a lot better to pick. If you get bonus points for 300 or even 400-yard passing games, then you're looking at the Drew Brees and and especially Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford has the most 400-yard passing games predicted for this season in our projections. So you get big bonus points there. That's worth going for.
The thing is, with Stafford, it's not just him. I think it's the Lions in general. In 2011, they had such a great, promising year. They had a great year. 2012, not so much. I mean, it's kind of like, which Lions are we going to see this year? Was it just a one-season thing, or was last year just, a down year? It's so much uncertainty.
Here's why I have no problem with Matt Stafford. I think that they're going to be better this year as a whole, and their passing game better as a whole. Last year, their running back who caught passes out of the backfield was a guy by the name of Joyke Bell. He went to Wright State, right there, or Wayne State, I'm sorry, right there in Detroit area. So no one had heard of him, and he caught like 40 passes last year. This year, what's that guy's name? Oh yeah, Reggie Bush, a guy who's the best receiver out of the backfield in NFL
Bush
history.
and he's an excellent possession back. He's the type of guy that's going to catch the ball and run with the ball. So you're going to see sort of a Michael Irvin-esque type of playmaker with a Matt Stafford, which puts Matt Stafford in a very coveted number 5 position. Go ahead. So, I mean, everybody's forgetting about that X Factor in Reggie Bush.
Well, exactly, and that's the reason why I have Stafford at number 6 on my list.
You hear that? Well, here's the thing. You said it with Reggie Bush. The only running back who is projected to have more catches for us this year is Darren Sproles. And look who we had at the top of our charts, Drew Brees. It makes a huge difference when that's their running game is the swing pass. That's the way it works. Well, we'll talk a little bit of general draft strategy, especially for the quarterbacks, when we get back here. We're live at the Crane Room Bar and Grill. If you're in the Newcastle area, you should stop by. $3 sangria night. It is also salad night. Whatever you want on your salad. Chicken, steak, what kind of chicken, what kind of steak? Do you want croutons? Do you want peppers? Do you want olives? How many olives? What kind of dressing? All you do is you fill it out and they make it for you. Great time, great salad, enough for 2 days. And of course, $3 sangria. Come watch the Buccos.
Dieter's paradise.
Absolutely. We'll be back in a few moments. 3SN Live.
Wow.
Need a place to go to watch the game? Looking for a great game day atmosphere that hosts great food, great service, and the most variety of craft beer in town? Then come on down to the Crane Room Bar and Grill in Newcastle, where the beer is always cold and the best wings are right here. The specials every night, there's always a good deal waiting for you at the Crane Room. Come out on Mondays for $2 23-ounce domestic drafts from 7 to 9. Tuesdays, burger nights. Enjoy $5 burgers from 7 to 9 p.m. Of course, if pasta's your gig, Wednesday is your night as pasta night goes bonanza. Thursday, it's pound for pound wings all night at $2 domestic drafts from 7 to 9, and mixed drinks are half off every Friday from 5 to 7 p.m. And Saturdays, from 7 to 9, it's $1 off draft beers. And for every Pirates game this year, enjoy a 23-ounce Icy Light for just $2. Whether it's to watch the game, at the bar, enjoy a night out at the outdoor patio, or sit down with your honey for dinner at the restaurant, the Crane Room has everything that you need. So come on down to the Crane Room Bar and Grill, get your fix on wings, sports, and beer. Just off Route 18 in beautiful, sunny Newcastle, Pennsylvania.
The 360 Sports Network is not a blog. We are a network, a collaboration of websites, blogs, radio stations, restaurants, and more. We are a group created by the fans, for the fans. Whatever the fans feel is newsworthy in the world of sports, we talk about. We believe that everybody is a fan, everyone is an analyst. That's the whole 360 concept. We invite all fans to join the 360 Sports Network by posting on their website directly at 360sportsnetwork.com or by linking their posts to the collaborative network. You can also be a part of the show tonight by tweeting us at 3S Network. Thank you for your interest in the 360 Sports Network. Roundtable arguments coming at you at 3SN.
Welcome back to 3SN, everybody. We are live here at the Crane Room Bar and Grill. We are here talking fantasy football, and now we're just going to get into some basic draft strategies. Fantasy football is probably our biggest subject here at 360 Sports Network, and we want you guys to come to us with your questions, and we'll give you advice on whatever it is you need. So, all right, let's start right off the bat. Dotson, what's your strategy for when you're drafting your team?
Especially for quarterbacks. I mean, we're going to focus mainly on quarterbacks tonight. We're going to have running backs, wideouts, everything down the road. We just mentioned, the top two we feel are pretty equal. Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, take your pick. They're really not too big of a difference. Again, take a look at your scoring system to make that final decision. But beyond that, you can go many different directions, like 3 through 5. That would be like maybe you would call your tier 2 if you do value-based drafting. And then like 6 through 12, 6 through 13 are all very close, very comparable. So there is really no difference to me between 6 and 13. So unless I can get really those top 2 in my mind, or maybe a top 3 if I like a Peyton Manning a lot, for example, I'm going to wait for a long time because I can get an Eli Manning or a Tony Romo or even a Matt Stafford possibly in the 5th or 6th or even later rounds. What do you think, Greg?
Well, it all depends, of course, on how you draft and how your preferences are, and basically what you put your value in. It's all about the value, as what you always preach there, Dotson. But one of the things that, now, I always like to say this, okay, you have picked the number 1 pick in your fantasy draft. Are you going to pick a quarterback, or are you going to go another position?
Adrian Peterson. There's no doubt in my mind the number 1 pick. Unless your scoring system gives 5 times as many points for a passing touchdown as rushing, AP is the number 1 pick, period, I think.
There you go.
Well, I agree for the most part. Adrian Peterson, the obvious pick. I think running backs are king to winning any fantasy league. And yeah, if you're a scoring system where passing touchdowns is a 6 points instead of 4 points, then yeah, quarterbacks will have a higher value. But like Dotson said, you can get a good quarterback, a tier 2 quarterback in the later rounds. So if you can stack up on running backs, I for the most part, I usually like to draft 2 running backs off the bat. But me, I drafted 10th last in our league 4 years in a row now, which is unbelievable. So every year I miss out on all the good players. So some people like to draft maybe even the best running back in addition to the best wide receiver. There's many different routes you can go. But in general, I think running backs are king.
I mean, right now, if you take a look at any fantasy football magazine, you're going to see that running backs, there is a plethora of good running backs. There is not that big of an amount of good wide receivers. And there's a decent amount of serviceable quarterbacks. So, with that said, depending upon your scoring, I think you have to draft heavy running back-wise and then proceed from there.
In the early 2000s, I was in a fantasy league. I picked right in the middle. My first 2 picks were Marvin Harrison and Randy Moss, and I won my league. But in today's NFL, like Dotson said before the break, there's so much parity just in everything, and we don't have that anymore. So And last year, I drafted Darren McFadden first, and I got Andre Johnson, and then my third pick, I picked a wide receiver, and I'm not doing that again. It was one of my worst years in fantasy football. So I think the wide receiver value definitely diminished the last, let's say, 5 years. So I'm usually go running back and quarterback, around 2 running backs or a quarterback, things like that. Those are the 2 positions in my opinion.
Well, I'm the value man. I'm the guy who talks all about, what value some guy has and at what point. Calvin Johnson is far and away the best wide receiver. I mean, he's going to average about 2 more points per game than the number 2 wideout. So when you go down the list to like a number 12 wideout, so say you've missed the whole top 12, you're now into what would be called wide receiver 2s, then you're already in huge trouble, where if you had Calvin Johnson, you can almost play 2 guys for 1. And after those top 12, that's where I start to see the dropout. Like after the Vincent Jackson, Roddy White, Larry Fitzgerald are probably in that tier 2 range. Then you drop off heavily to the Victor Cruz, the Reggie Wayne. Wes Welker could really skyrocket, but right now he's probably a tier 3 for me. But those guys just are that big time lower that I think really, like you said, there's a few guys who are so strong that if you can get one of those early, you can then wait a little bit and get a wideout 2, wideout 3 later. Maybe one of those young guys. I mean, there's so many 3 wide receiver sets, you can do it.
Yeah, and the thing is, there aren't that many good wide receivers out there.
It's not like how it used to be. It's really not.
No. Now, tight ends can actually pick up the slack on that. I mean, you can get a few good tight ends that actually improve your game if you don't have the advantage of getting a good wide receiver up front.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree. I remember in 2011, Rob Gronkowski's year. I think he was in the top 3 leading in receiving points, and he was a tight end.
Right.
Now, obviously, it's going to probably be a different year for him because of all his injuries. But which tight ends, Dotson, could make a big impact like Rob Gronkowski did in 2011? Are there any out there?
Tight end, the only one that I see is going to make a huge difference this year would be Jimmy Graham. I mean, he's the only one we got projected to get 1,000 yards. He'll probably be around the 90 catch mark again. 10 touchdowns is very likely for him. He's the guy that Drew Brees looks to. You got an athletic guy who can go up like that. I think he's obviously, an obvious choice. But then you also have, the Jason Witten, Tony Gonzalez. Gronkowski, if he's healthy, could also be huge again. We got to see what he does in preseason here. But beyond that, there's where the drop-off is. The next highest is Vernon Davis. And, he had games down the stretch with Kaepernick that he wasn't even looked at all game. So that's why I think it's very imperative that you get one of those top 2 or 3 tight ends in your team this year, because otherwise you'll be playing the waiver wire all year.
Mm-hmm. And the fact, Jimmy Graham, who's throwing him the ball? Drew Brees. I mean, the other tight ends on that list, Jason Witten, Tony Gonzalez, do have solid quarterbacks, but none like the Drew Brees caliber level where they just chuck it the whole time. It is what it is. Now, what would be too late or too early for Jimmy Graham? Is getting him in the 3rd round too early for you?
Getting him in the 3rd round is definitely not too early for me. I can see him going in the 2nd round. I can see him going mid to late 2nd round.
Depending on how many teams are in the league.
10 to 12 team league, I would say, late 2nd round is a definite possibility, especially if you got another pick coming back around. I would go running back first. I might take a tight end second and get my 2nd running back then after.
My God, you sound like the mad scientist.
Don't I? I'm taking a page out of your book, Greg.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Do you disagree?
I would disagree on a certain extent here, because I think there are way too many good running backs. You can never have enough running backs. I mean, just looking at Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush is going to be used like a tight end. You got Wes Welker that's going to be kind of used like a tight end on that underneath game that he's so fond of doing.
Right.
So I mean, I don't think you need to panic right away. You have to take a look and see who's out there and what's actually happening. You've got running backs like Marshawn Lynch that's, just ran out of his shoes last year. This guy was in Fuego. I mean, he's poised to have another fantastic year. You have guys like AB. I mean, he's just an absolute beast. And you go down the running back list. I would really think that Jimmy Graham in the third round would be just a little too soon. But, it all depends on your strategies and what you're trying to do. And I would actually try to get Calvin Johnson in the second round and, go after some of the top wide receivers before I go to a tight end in the third round.
And my only worry would be, put it this way. Even when you get past those top guys, you have a good chunk of middle-range wideouts that are all pretty similar. So for me, I'll pass on one of those and get one the next time it comes around. Tight ends, if I don't get one of the top two, I'll be down in cellar dwellers.
You also have to look at the size of your league, too. If you've got like 17 people or 14 people drafting in your league, 17's a stretch, I know. But if you've got 14,
not too big of one.
No,
You'd be surprised.
But if you've got 14 people in your league, yeah, I can see getting Jimmy Graham in the second or third round, no doubt about it. But if you're in a standard 12-man league, I don't know.
If you go solely on value,
Well,
Jimmy Graham is listed as the number 12 guy on our cheat sheets
there you
right
go.
now overall.
So he could be a number one guy then.
Yeah, he could be the end of the first round. And you know what? It would not surprise me if somebody does that, kind of like people did with Gronkowski these past couple of years. And here's the big thing that I like looking at. In this value-based drafting system, you look at the difference between the top guy at the position versus what would be the worst starter. So in a 10-person league, it would be the 10th best defense, or the 10th best quarterback. In a wideout, it would be probably the 30th best because you got 3 starters for 10 teams. But here's the point value that you get. Drew Brees is worth about 50 points in a standard league. Adrian Peterson, 115 over that replacement. Wide receiver, top one, Calvin Johnson, about 90. Tight end, Jimmy Graham, about 75. Kicker, about 15. That's less than a point per game. And defense, Seattle, we have actually at about 80 points per total. So about, I don't know, I can't do that quick math right now. That's about 4 or 5 points per game. So big differences between a top and a bottom, and you just got to look where that value-based value is and see where the drop-off is when you look at these cheat sheets.
Now, my question is, how do we get started talking about tight ends and wide receivers when we're going to focus our podcast tonight on
because it all comes back. It all comes back
There's always
to
a
where,
correlation.
because you have to look at your full strategy to determine your own quarterback. And I know all you out there like, I wanted to hear quarterbacks. We'll talk more about
You
it.
know what? Let's talk quarterbacks.
Let's talk
Quarterback
quarterbacks.
sleepers.
Quarterback sleepers, this would be guys that you would look to get as your backup.
This would be a QB2 or maybe a QB3.
Somebody you would want to get in your later rounds, maybe 10th, 11th round, 9th, 10th, 11th.
Or
I'd
if
say.
you draft like the mad scientist to wait to the 8th round to pick a quarterback, who's going to be that guy that's going to win you that league?
Well, you need to have a good, solid backup quarterback. I mean, especially if you don't get the one of the top tier guys, top 4 or 5, then I'd like to get 2 or 3 guys on my team who I can go and maybe mix and match, play the matchups a little bit. A guy who I would look to get late is Alex Smith in Kansas City. I really think that he can shine in that offense. I mean, what was it, the GM who said we have the best quarterback in the league right now?
I always thought he was not terrible. I mean, people portrayed him as one of the worst quarterbacks
He
ever.
is not terrible.
I mean, look,
Just bad.
look, listen. Andy Reid can do something special with Alex Smith. Fresh start for Alex going down to Kansas City. Yeah, he could. Now, here's something I want to ask Dotson. You've been one of the better college football minds out there. Chip Kelly taking his offense to Philadelphia. Is Michael Vick now considered a sleeper in your eyes?
Take a look at what he does in the first preseason game, because both he and Nick Foles are going to be splitting the reps. Chip Kelly did great with Oregon with that spread offense. The New England Patriots went to Chip Kelly to learn off of him, and they didn't use the spread. Chip Kelly is not a spread offense guy. He's a quick offense guy. So Mike Vick honestly could fit into a spread offense. 1, how much is he going to use it? 2, the big question is he even going to start? Take a look at what the system is and what happens in those in the first couple preseason games, because there's a good possibility if he gets the job, he will be somebody worth getting late. You never know; he could explode in a couple games.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, here's the thing, though. He's 33. How long is he going to stay fast for? I don't know. I don't know too much about Chip Kelly's offense. It sounds like Michael Vick, from everything I'm hearing and reading, he's either going to do really well or really bad. So, I don't know if I'd say Vick is so much a sleeper as much as the risk-reward. He has maybe some potential, but also potential for disaster, too. So, he's someone to keep an eye on.
And here's the thing, too. That offense, if they do run the spread, Chip Kelly's spread, if you looked at all his quarterbacks, they got rushing yards. They did all right. They threw the ball. They didn't score many touchdowns. That's the issue that you would have fantasy-wise, and you got to look at to see how many touchdowns are actually coming from the quarterback, especially on the ground.
Actually, I don't even look at Michael Vick as a sleeper. I look at him as a bit of a liability, to be honest with you, because first of all, the guy can't survive a full season. He's always out by mid-season with some sort of life-threatening ribbage.
Yeah.
But the guy that I'm looking at as my sleeper pick for the 2013 season, Carson Palmer.
Good pick.
Carson Palmer he now has a wide receiver in Larry Fitzgerald. They have a coach that values his style of play. This is a coach that made Ben Roethlisberger what Ben Roethlisberger is today. This is a guy that's going to take a over-the-hill quarterback, Carson Palmer, rejuvenate this guy's career, and they're going to have a quarterback in Arizona that is going to be as good, if not better, than Mr. Warner.
I think he will be better than Mr. Warner. I think Carson Palmer has been completely neglected all the way back from the Ocho Cinco days.
Yeah.
And now Larry Fitzgerald has someone thrown to him. Now, I always felt like Larry Fitzgerald was the most, I don't want to say underutilized guy in the NFL, but if he had a quarterback, look what happened when him and Kurt Warner were tagging up. There was those years where Kurt Warner was in New York, did terrible. His last year in St. Louis, he didn't do well either. Got to Arizona, went to the Super Bowl, went to the playoffs. So now I like that Greg said it. Palmer and Arians combined with Fitzgerald has unlimited potential. So I would say Palmer at 3SN should probably be our unanimous sleeper pick for a quarterback. That's how I feel.
There's not many I would take otherwise.
You're hanging them out to dry.
Well, like you said, he probably is more of a liability than anything.
He's missed at least 3 games each of the last 3 seasons. So take the risk if you want. That's why, I'm talking sleeper.
Right.
Not quite in the coma, though he gets hit so often he might be getting there. If you get him as a sleeper, you might want a third quarterback on there as well. I would get Mike Vick, though, in the last round, because there's a great potential to
If Mike
explode.
Vick is out there and you're in the 8th round and you already have a quarterback 1 already picked, yeah, go after Mike Vick.
Yeah, why not?
All right, who are the quarterbacks that are rated fairly high that you should stay away from?
The ones that I think are overrated, I'm a little nervous about Tom Brady, just not knowing what sort of receiving staff he's going to have right now. I don't know. Beyond that, any one of them, you got to keep an eye. I don't think Russell Wilson will have a good year. I don't think Russell Wilson will at all. And I think the lack of Percy Harvin isn't going to help either. So, maybe. Who knows? But
I just got a text here just coming across my phone, and this is really loud because I don't know who this came from. But I have Foles, Tannehill, and Tyler Wilson are sleeping quarterbacks.
he's going all the way to Tyler Wilson.
What's the area code? 267.
267 area code.
Interesting. No, Foles would be a big sleeper because we don't know if he's starting. Honestly, I don't think Nick Foles belongs with that offense. Even if it is not a spread offense, it's not quick enough. He's not quick enough.
Actually, I like Tannehill, though, as a sleeper.
See, maybe. If they can use Mike Wallace the right way.
Right. And once again, though, Mike Wallace is going to be that value that Larry Fitzgerald is to Carson Palmer. Okay. Tannehill has proved that he had a good season last year.
Okay.
I don't know. Tannehill really scares me, but
Now
that's why he's a sleeper.
There's 2 quarterbacks I'm really not sure what to think about. One is Phillip Rivers, and the other is Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck now no longer has Arians. Phillip Rivers, my God, he's just on an island all by himself. Even when he was drafted, he was a third out of the big 3 quarterbacks taken. He's just so neglected. What tiers do you put those two quarterbacks in?
I have Andrew Luck on the rise, actually. I think Andrew Luck's going to be good. I think what proves it the most is what Reggie Wayne said today, that Andrew Luck works just as hard and works you just as hard, if not harder, than Peyton Manning did.
Andrew
He
Luck
is so
could
much
be a
like
top
him.
10 quarterback by the end of the season.
I think he will be. I really think he will.
By the way, I believe that was Lost Cause that sent me that.
That was the lost cause.
That was the
wasn't
Lost Cause. Mr. Jim, the Lost Cause Blues, texting in.
Calling in from a unanimous number. How appropriate, right?
it? That would be anonymous, but that's another story right there.
Anonymous
well,
number.
we'll get some more
did I
input
say?
from the lost cause and some unanimous,
Yeah.
anonymous
Well, it
decisions
is a
coming up.
unanimous number.
But we'll talk a
Actually, we're
little
looking
bit
forward
more.
to those pigskin blinks that he's going to be putting together. here fairly
Absolutely.
soon.
Why don't we take a quick break? We'll tell you about those pigskin blinks and the fantasy football toolkit, and we'll be back to the Crane Room Bar and Grill here in a moment. 3SN Live.
It's that time of year again where you try to fill rosters, scooping hot rumors before the other guy in your league can, watching NFL action more for the players and not so much for the games. Yeah, it's fantasy football time again. With all the analysis and information floating around the internet, who should you trust? Well, look no further than the 360 Sports Network's own Fantasy Football Toolkit. Join me, the Lost Cause, and the Mad Scientist every week as we break down stats, games, player performances, injuries, and a whole lot more. But who wants to wait a week? Get your fill of fantasy football information in my daily segment featured on the 360 Sports Network, the Daily Pigskin Blink. In under 10 minutes, you get fantasy football information, NFL news, injury reports, starts, sits, studs, duds, previews, reviews, and a whole lot more. Basically, everything to help make your fantasy football team sizzle. So check out the Fantasy Football Toolkit and the Pigskin Blink at 360sportsnetwork.com as well as fantasyfootballtoolkit.com. All to make sure that your team isn't a lost cause.
Need a place to go to watch the game? Looking for a great game day atmosphere that also has great food, great service, and the most variety of craft beer in town? Then come on down to the Crane Room Bar and Grill in Newcastle, where the beer is always cold and the best wings are right here. The specials every night, there's always a good deal waiting for you at the Crane Room. Come out on Mondays for $2 23-ounce domestic drafts from 7 to 9. Tuesdays, burger nights. Enjoy $5 burgers from 7 to 9 p.m. Of course, if pasta's your gig, Wednesday's your night. As pasta night goes bonanza. Thursday, it's pound for pound wings all night at $2 domestic drafts from 7 to 9. And mixed drinks are half off every Friday from 5 to 7 p.m. And Saturdays, from 7 to 9, it's $1 off draft beers. And for every Pirates game this year, enjoy a 23-ounce Icy Light for just $2. Whether it's to watch the game, at the bar, enjoy a night out at the outdoor patio, or sit down with your honey for dinner at the restaurant, the Crane Room has everything that you need. So come on down to the Crane Room Bar and Grill. Get your fix on wings, sports, and beer. Just off Route 18 in beautiful, sunny Newcastle, Pennsylvania.
Do you have a unique fantasy football league setup? Do the draft guides and cheat sheets available not provide you with any help because they're only for a standard league? Well, it's time for that to change. 360 Sports Network provides you with a free, personalized, and customized fantasy football cheat sheet so that you can dominate your league no matter what the scoring system is set up. You enter the league settings, then use our projected stats or statistics projected on your own, and in seconds you have the perfect draft guide for your league's unique setup. So stop using cheat sheets that don't represent how your league runs. Go to 360sportsnetwork.com to download your free customizable cheat sheets and dominate your league.
More fantasy football arguments on 3SN Live.
Welcome back to 3SN Live at the Crane Room Bar and Grill in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Stop by, $3 sangria night, and of course, huge salad made your way for just $8. Right before we came back on the air, Alex decided to poke a little bit of my funny bone and tell me who my two favorite quarterbacks out there are. You know what? I can't agree more, Alex.
Dotson's two favorite quarterbacks are Eli Manning and Joe Flacco. Because according to Dotson, Super Bowl rings mean nothing. Isn't that right?
That's exactly what that means. When those two combined have played about 13 great games in their lives, they just all happen to be in the playoffs.
And Eli Manning, I definitely downgraded on him.
Yeah, you've definitely come to the dark side on that
Yeah,
one.
the more I think about
Greg's over there looking like he's ready to kill us.
I'm not saying he's not a good fantasy quarterback if you get him in the late rounds, but
Eli Manning is a top second-tier quarterback.
But there are people that'll say he's better than Peyton just because he has 2 rings. You know what I mean?
Now, are we talking just in terms of being better or worse, or are we
say-
talking fantasy right
Let's
now?
do fantasy. Let's go. Let's
Stick to
just
fantasy.
let's do
Eli Manning has no place on my team.
Really?
a backup. I think he'd be a decent backup.
Because the consistency is not there. He'll have a 400-yard game. He'll have another game next week where he has 120 yards and 3 interceptions.
That's
I
true.
don't like
Yeah.
the consistency.
Right, but yeah, I agree. But he still will get you points. I mean, he's kind of like a Jay Cutler, the quarterback from hell.
He's someone I think if your quarterback gets injured or something, you have your quarterback spot open for a Monday night or a Sunday night game. You need a solid 10 to 15 points. All right, let's go pick him up. But he's not someone to put in your starting quarterback, in my opinion, roster every week. Because when he's off, he's off. When he's good, he's good. And kind of the same thing with Joe Flacco. To me, those guys are more like fill-ins, if that makes any sense. Like that kind of range of quarterbacks. Especially this year, like you said earlier during the break, Flacco you think's going to have an off year. Especially Flacco, because now they lost all that talent in Baltimore.
Right, well, it's going to be a true testament to see is Flacco really worth that type of money. Is Flacco really what the Ravens have? I'll tell you what, if Flacco has a down year this year in Baltimore, don't be surprised if Baltimore doesn't put him on the market.
Who's going to want to pick up
After
that
that-
kind of money?
yeah,
Well,
after that contract.
that's another story for another day. Lost Cause has decided to chime in over here. He said Flacco's a solid quarterback. Eli, solid tier 2, tier 3. Maybe if you're in late pick one up like round 8 like you, Greg, right?
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel.
He
too.
says he would take Andy Dalton over either one, though. What are your thoughts on Dalton?
We were talking about him during the break.
The Red Rifle had a little bit of a down year this past year, but I would agree with him. I would take Andy Dalton over either one of those two guys, only because Cincinnati's wide receiver core is pretty solid right now.
Oh, absolutely it is. And I've had him, Eli Manning, and then like Josh Freeman, Schaubs, and maybe even Alex Smith.
Josh Freeman?
Yes.
Josh?
He puts up big games.
no.
Do you know why? He puts up touchdowns. He puts up points. He's not a good
I
quarterback.
take
He's a good
Eli
fantasy
Manning
quarterback.
over Josh Freeman, but okay, fine. All right, I'll
It's
take
something to keep in mind because
$10
as a backup, you'd be surprised. He puts up good fantasy numbers, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes close to 30 touchdowns this year.
Andy Dalton can really be a great starting quarterback on a fantasy league if you're waiting for later rounds. Look, his first year in the league, he passed for 3,400 yards, 20 touchdowns. His sophomore year, where quarterbacks typically have a slump, close to 3,700 yards passing and 27 touchdowns. And look who he's surrounded by, great talent. So Dalton definitely can be a starting quarterback on any team, I think.
Huh? Would you put him as a QB1 though, or is he going to be your backup?
See, when I think of QB1s, I think of, the top echelon guys, the Rodgers, Brady's, but I would, tier
Brady's
2 guys.
butts? Did you say Brady's butts?
No, I said
Continue.
no. But a tier 2, I think is a solid level for Andy Dalton, in my opinion.
So you're looking at tier 2, end of the starters. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Greg, who else are we talking about out there as some potential guys to keep your eye on in the preseason maybe? To maybe make a splash, maybe a new coach, maybe just a new system. or maybe a rookie who's going to step up there that could make fantasy prominence. I don't think anybody's going to be as good as the rookies we had last year.
As far as quarterbacks?
Yeah.
No. I mean, none of the rookies. I mean, Geno Smith may beat out Sanchez, but I wouldn't even look at any of those guys. And the rookie quarterback up in Buffalo, no, I don't know. I mean, this rookie crop is just a very, very good rookie crop. I don't really see anybody coming out there making a big splash.
What about Dan Marino? I don't know, that's what the Lost Cause keeps saying.
What?
He keeps saying Dan Marino.
What about Dan Marino?
He must be making a comeback. I thought that was Brett Favre, but that's another story for another day.
Oh my lord!
No, I don't know, guys. I don't think any rookie is going to make any promise.
Yeah.
Geno Smith has the best chance, and I don't think there's any chance in New York.
I don't want to touch
I
any.
didn't like Geno Smith when he was playing for West Virginia, and I certainly don't like him with the Jets right now.
Exactly. Well, I mean, there's no better place he could have gone as a Pitt fan to be saying that.
Amen.
But no, I mean,
I'll tell you though, as far as coaches and the right type of system, I think Bruce Arians over in Arizona, I'm really high on the Cardinals this year. I really think the Cardinals are going to surprise a lot of people.
look what Bruce Arians did with Andrew Luck.
Right.
That's all you gotta say.
And especially stepping in a situation where he was expected to take over that team when Indianapolis' coach went down with leukemia, when Chuck Pagano went down. Arians did such an incredible job. He was named Coach of the Year.
Well, Pittsburghers wanted him out as fast as they possibly could.
You know what? There's been a lot of bad press regarding Bruce Arians. You know what? Bruce Arians is proven, no doubt about it. And I'm glad that he has that position out there. Really, Pittsburgh West is going to be on the rise.
I hear you there. Here's another good point. Lost Cause has brought this up, and I've heard it many times. You see the rushing quarterbacks especially having that sophomore slump. Do you expect a Robert Griffin or a Colin Kaepernick or Russell Wilson to have that sophomore slump? I know Kaepernick's technically his third year, but really his second as a starter. Do you see one of them having a better likelihood of a slump than, say, a Ryan Tannehill or an Andrew Luck?
Actually, I see Kaepernick as having a bit of a slump because his game is rather predictable. Russell Wilson's game is not as predictable. Russell Wilson is actually a pretty darn good passer. And with that said, I don't see Russell Wilson perhaps having that type of slump. But I do see Kaepernick and even RG3 perhaps. Although, with RG3, we don't know how healthy he's going to be going into the season. So, with that said, a lot's going to be determined upon, if he has that slump, well, okay, his health was an issue. Mm-hmm. But Kaepernick, he's just a little too predictable for why I don't like him.
All right, last question before we take a break here. I get asked every year, Jay Cutler, what do you do with him?
Quarterback from hell.
Fantasy-wise and not.
You know what? He's in the same category that I would put Eli Manning. And if you draft like the way I draft and wait till the 8th or 9th round to pick a quarterback, he might be your savior. But on the same token, I would not, he's not a top-tier quarterback, although he does put up some huge numbers from time to time. And he's got a new system. He's got the coach in the Montreal Alouettes, that they are a very pass-happy league up there in Canada. And he's got the guy that was Bernie Kosar's quarterback coach when Bernie Kosar was at Miami.
So it's something to keep your eye on, but there are a lot more guys who I would take ahead of him for sure, including Josh Freeman.
Butler was rated pretty high last year in a lot of fantasy football.
And then everybody wondered why he did nothing. We kept trying to tell you that he's not the best fantasy quarterback.
He's not. He's just, like Greg said, maybe a fill-in if you're desperate.
The only player
I wouldn't take him seriously.
From Tampa Bay's team that I would really be looking very closely at is Mr. Muscle Hamster, Mr. Doug Martin.
Well, he is one of our top 5 running backs. A lot of people see him as high as number 2 in their running back. So
yeah, I am just completely enamored by this guy's running ability. But that's another podcast for another day.
That it is. Well, we're going to take one last break. When we come back, we'll wrap up the quarterbacks and talk a little more strategy and answer some of your questions here live, 360sportsnetwork.com.
Do Do you have a unique fantasy football league setup? Do the draft guides and cheat sheets available not provide you with any help because they're only for a standard league? Well, it's time for that to change. 360 Sports Network provides you with a free, personalized, and customized fantasy football cheat sheet so that you can dominate your league no matter what the scoring system is set up. You enter the league settings, then use our projected stats or statistics projected on your own, and in seconds you have the perfect draft guide for your league's unique setup. So stop using cheat sheets that don't represent how your league runs. Go to 360sportsnetwork.com to download your free customizable cheat sheets and dominate your league.
The 360 Sports Network is not a blog. We are a network, a collaboration of websites, blogs, radio stations, restaurants, and more. We are a group created by the fans, for the fans. Whatever the fans feel is newsworthy in the world of sports, we talk about. We believe that everybody is a fan, everyone is an analyst. That's the whole 360 concept. We invite all fans to join the 360 Sports Network by posting on their website directly at 360sportsnetwork.com or by linking their posts to the collaborative network. You can also be a part of the show tonight by tweeting us at 3S Network. Thank you for your interest in the 360 Sports Network.
We're back here at 3SN, everybody, at the Crane Room Bar and Grill in beautiful Newcastle, Pennsylvania. I hope all of you enjoyed our little debating over fantasy football quarterbacks this past hour. We have a lot of different opinions here at 3SN. One thing that stuck out was that we all seem to be in agreement on Carson Palmer this year, and we all advise to stay away from Jay Cutler. But gentlemen, final thoughts before we end the show.
I think, like I've said time and time again, it's all about how your system is set up to begin with. If all touchdowns are equal, then you want someone like a Drew Brees. You want to try to get one of them early. I think running backs are going to be a little bit more, there's going to be more depth in the running backs than you've had in the last couple of years. So you might be able to get away with not taking one in the first round and be very successful still. But if you don't get a Drew Brees or Aaron Rodgers in the first round, I think it's better off to then wait for a good amount of time and pull a mad scientist and wait until about the 7th round.
That's basically how I feel too. I really not have nothing to add to that.
Yep, I agree.
All right, we'll see another unanimous opinion here at 3SN.
That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, that does not happen.
Something is a little bit fishy here, I think. But no, guys, pleasure as always. Glad to be back. Greg, thank you for joining us here live. We love your debate, love your insight, love making me want to pull my hair out when you make some of your mad scientist predictions. But
Actually,
I thought you loved kickers.
I'm going to put a little bit of we're going to talk about what's wrong with sports. Let's talk a little bit about what's wrong with sports
Let's
here
do it
because
real
it's a
quick.
favorite topic. Time Warner Cable is what's wrong with sports. Time Warner Cable is holding all sports fans hostage right now, right at the preseason games, with them having their beef with the CBS network. Yeah, CBS networks, and you take a look at the cities that are growing up. You have Dallas, Los Angeles, New York, and Pittsburgh. Okay, we cannot watch preseason football for Pittsburgh because it's only broadcast on the CBS network. So
And they're
anybody
not
that's
doing
got
it.
Time Warner Cable is screwed. So thank you, Time Warner Cable, for basically holding your subscribers hostage.
guess what? We live in the 21st century. Those that are held hostage are going to find it online. I
Well,
know
we
too
are-
many people who don't even have that cable
I'm just
anymore
saying
because
that,
they can
you
watch
know, what's wrong
online.
with sports is big money is basically screwing around with things that they shouldn't be screwing around.
Hey, there's lots wrong with sports. Check our website because we got it on there more often than not. But guess what? There's always things that are right with sports.
That's true.
And we want to try to publish those as much as possible. So if you have something that is really good in the world of sports out there, whether it be your 8-9-year-old baseball team, all the way up to polo or lacrosse or anything for any age group, you see something out there that's worth talking about, that's right in sports, let us know, because we want to talk about that and get away from what's wrong with the sports. Well, I think that about wraps it up, gentlemen. For Greg the Mad Scientist Bashero, for Alex the Saint Delaverson, I'm the Value Man, James Dotson. Have a great night, everybody.